So you wanna make
Welcome to Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Yes, you heard that right. Join your co-hosts, Dr. Sam Fuller and Dr. Dan Butz, board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeons, on an exclusive full-access pass into the world of plastic surgery. Combining their expertise and training, Drs. Fuller and Butz will share medical insights, detailed explanations, and lighthearted humor to keep you entertained and informed. We're certain you'll become passionate about the plastic surgery specialty, and between debunking myths, uncovering truths, or just making you laugh out loud at their perspective on this creative and artistic field, we've got something for everyone. From tummy tucks to Botox and mommy makeovers to surgery do-overs, the Fuller Butz podcast will surely satisfy your podcast fix. All right, now let's dive into this episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to Fuller Butz. We have a very special episodes with some experts in the field of marketing and branding from Smith and Crawford Company. Andrea Smith and Talisa Crawford are joining co-hosts Dr. Dan Butz and I on the Fuller Butz podcast. And we have a lot to cover. It is going to be, I think, a new, different field that we are going to be engaging in. Not surgeries, not do-overs, not counterfeit Botox, but actually the nitty-gritty of style points, of garnering authentic audiences, of increasing our exposure and our audiences, and really creating a brand and credibility to plastic surgery. And so, Dan, do you want to talk about a few of the major points that we are going to be discussing in today's episode?
Yeah, I think it's such an important topic because oftentimes you go out there, you're looking for plastic surgery examples, what you can learn in different procedures, and it's kind of a mixed bag. And especially I remember 7 years ago starting out as plastic surgeons, like I'm just gonna go on Instagram and post some before and afters, and it's like they're gonna be great, and I'll get all this followers and patients from it. And it's way harder than that, kind of cracking into the algorithm and actually getting onto those new people's feeds to kind of create that social media, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, following. And I've often joked to Sam that I'm kind of anti-social on social media, which doesn't, play well. I don't like to follow people or like things very often. Kind of goes against my better judgment. But it's also really important to engage with others to get engagement. And I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about, what's kind of going on behind the scenes and how to best, reach new people and increase engagement.
Yeah, I think we realize that it's necessary. Like, we need to be visible and present. And so where it transitioned from was asking our wives, like, is this a good post to do, to messaging each other? Like, I just made this video, should I post it, to saying we should probably ask some experts and get some help. And so full disclosure, Smith and Crawford Company created my website. They actually created my awesome logo. And so I get wonderful reviews and feedback from my website. They were able to give me a logo that I didn't have up until September of 2023. I was just, making things work. And so they really gave me that sense of establishment and a sense of credibility, and it's just been boosted on. So that's my connection with them. They were referred from someone locally who also had tremendous success. And I just want to pass the podcast mic over to them to let them introduce themselves and really where their niches are, where their interests and expertise are. And then we can start hammering them with some good questions about our plastic surgery content on social media and so forth.
Yes, thank you. We're so excited to be here. My name is Andrea Smith.
And I'm Talisa Crawford.
Yes, and we are here from Smith and Crawford Company. We are a social media agency that also does branding and website builds as well. So we kind of do the whole gamut of digital marketing. We focus primarily on the aesthetics industry. So we have clients that are in the med spa space. We have plastic surgery clients, and then we have cosmetic dentistry. We've helped, we had one client that did a weight loss clinic, and we really loved working with her too. So we've kind of just we have an acne clinic. So we're really in the aesthetics marketing space. We've been working together for a few years now and have had a lot of success. We've grown the business strictly through word of mouth marketing up until this year. We decided to kind of create our own marketing machine for ourselves and have learned a lot through, all of the avenues that we've been. And so we're here to share and to give you guys some guidance And we have a great downloadable at the end of this to share with you guys too, to kind of help you along the way if you're ever looking for a social media agency.
And not to sell themselves short, but they also have an awesome podcast called The Aesthetic Pulse. And so
Yes,
I listen to them on my car rides to try to just gain insight. And that was really what triggered me, was some of their behind the scenes details as far as exposure on TikTok and Instagram, as someone who's a novice and, plastic surgeon by day, not a marketer by night, by just hearing what their feedback was, whether it's chat GPT to TikTok reels to just the overflow. I really wanted to get them on our podcast so that our listeners can hear some of the conversations that we have with marketers, with website developers, so that they're understanding why we're posting the things that we're posting and why we're not posting the things that we're not posting. And so maybe we'll set it up with the first topic of just shoulds and should nots. I wanted to hear from you guys, like if I was hiring you as a marketing firm for my Instagram plastic surgery website, like what are some things that, or top 3 things that I should expose my viewership and audience to, and what are some things that I should maybe not do?
So I think this is a great question. And I would say there's kind of a trap that I see a lot of plastic surgeons fall into, which is not understanding who their true audience is on social media. And I see the kinds of things that they're posting is not truly beneficial to the purpose of the platform, which for most plastic surgeons, I hope the purpose of the platform is to build your clientele. So I think that's really important to remember. Is your goal to build your clientele and to showcase your work, or is it to attract peers? Because when I look at plastic surgeons' Instagrams, I would say more often than not, I think they're accidentally attracting peers and not clients. And so this is the biggest thing that I notice, is one of the things you should not do. I would say, number 1, please do not put the gore on your social media. Please.
Some people love it though. Some people are like, I want the hand trauma. And I've done less of that, but you're saying that's a no-no, huh?
That's a huge no-no. So my husband's a physician, and so he eats that up, but I'm like, barf. No, do not show me that. And I would say most of your clientele, they want to see the beautiful result. They don't want to know what it's going to take to get there. They just want the result. But if you show them the process between, it's going to scare people away. Because if I see a body that's getting or whatever, no, I'm not going to sign myself up for that. And that's just something really important to remember. Please, as much as possible, do not add the gory details of your procedures, because while it might be fascinating to you and absolutely going to be fascinating to your peers, it could potentially scare away clientele. And so number one, no gore, no glory. Okay. So that's...
I mean, you could totally start a separate Instagram for that stuff, because some people really do like it. Yeah. We've had a plastic surgery client for a couple of years now. And I know one time we got a video, we were trying to promote, you know exactly what I'm going to say. Actually, there's 2 examples. One, we were trying to promote lip lifts, and the surgeon thought it was really cool. And it was cool, but like, I couldn't even watch it. But he you take like a piece of skin out from underneath their nose, and he did like a boomerang of taking it off. And it was like going like that. And it was so disgusting. I would say no one's going to look at that and say, wow, I want a lip lift now. What's going to make them look and say, I want a lip lift, is seeing the long flat lip. And then it turns into like a beautiful after result, and not like the sausage making in the middle, even though it was cool and someone would probably want to see it. And then the other one was a liposuction video. And it was like, the ramming of the thing. And it was like, oh my gosh, no one's going to look at that and say, please, I need that done to me. But the after result of getting the procedure done was like, that will get people to come in. So just kind of thinking through that filter.
Yeah.
So if you guys can just go ahead and send us that boomerang, but we won't do that for our own thing. Kidding. We will not include those. Okay, so those are good to know, because I've heard, I would say it's probably a minority, but some people are like, hey, I want to see that, hand trauma that was amputated and put back on. But I think probably you can still show it, but just avoid those intermediate steps that are gruesome, because it's likely, whether even it's subconsciously, it's just not going to stir the right buttons in their mind as far as like, oh yeah, I should call this person sort of thing.
Right. And so I think just always have the lens in your mind when you're posting on your social media, wherever you're posting, is would an ideal client find this appealing? Just always not would my peers find this appealing? Would my ideal clientele find this appealing? So with every single thing you post, just have that lens in mind. And so to counteract that, I would say the biggest I would say is showcase your most beautiful results that you have with plastic surgery, especially because these procedures are not cheap. Let's just say that. And people want to shop their options. And if they don't have anything to reference, they're going to be a little bit more hesitant to come in. Whereas if they see result after result after result, that's dramatic and incredible, they're going to say, sign me up. I have no reservations coming to you because they see what you can do. And so making sure you're showcasing beautiful results, I would say, is the first for sure to do that I would say for do's and don'ts. And so we can go more into before and afters and what kinds you should be showcasing and maybe how to appropriately post them if we want to go into some of those details. But I would say that should be your number one focus, is getting as many dramatic before and afters as possible. And I do use the word dramatic intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So dramatic is good, but Dan and I were in Austin, Texas at the national meeting, and it was a little bit controversial because on the panel for this, one of them said, you know, you should be posting every day, post as much as you can. It's all about volume. And the other person said, you should just post your best stuff. Because if you're posting frequently, but it's mediocrity, or maybe it's not like the greatest thing, that's actually going to hurt you. So, you know, you want to post your dramatic stuff, but would you guys be on the side of frequency, or would you be on quality?
I'm personally absolutely on quality because I think you can fill in content in other ways. So adding in really good educational content or adding more, you know, points about your clinic that makes you unique. There are things that you can still post about on social media to kind of boost the frequency, if you will. But to me, I would rather see a quality Instagram account than one that's just cranking out content left and right. Because Andrew and I could tell you this, we've seen accounts where we do see people very active on their social media, but it looks terrible. And I don't mean that, and I'm not trying to come across as rude, but if a client is looking at your social media and it looks crappy, they're going to have a negative connotation, like immediately, to everything you do, because they're not going to look at it as luxury. They're not going to look at it as high end, because if you're just like posting random things all of the time, it looks disorganized and not luxurious at all. And you want to attract the people that are coming in for that experience. And so you got to kind of think of your social media as a second website. How do you want to showcase yourself? Would you let people go to your website and it just looks super disorganized and all over the place? I would hope not. And so you have to think of your social media as that second real estate online that you have to showcase yourself. And so it's incredibly important that you show up correctly.
It's interesting. I think a lot of companies, products that we sell, whatnot, they have these brand boxes and they tell you, oh, here's a social media post you can post. And it's like just kind of boring filler and
Generic,
generic, not filler products. Sometimes it is. And I kind of shied away from ever posting it because it's like, this isn't really, everyone posted and it's just not exciting, not interesting. But they're trying to obviously promote their products. And it's also, you know, when I first started 7 years ago, I'd kind of make these very standardized before and after photos like we were trained, you know, perfect lighting, kind of really trying to showcase the true result. And, you know, it got some attraction or, you know, likes and whatnot. But then, you know, everyone started doing these more kind of reels and transitions and on the table stuff. And that stuff gets more engagement when it's, you know, movies, videos that's spinning and transitioning. And it's almost harder to actually evaluate the result when it's in that form, but people like it better. So I've always tried to want to really, you know, again, show a classical plastic surgeon's perspective of how you evaluate a result. But for social media, I don't think that necessarily plays as well. So you have to kind of try to spice it up a little bit, make it more interesting to watch.
What do you guys think about like a video with music and, you know, trendy music playing versus just like a standard blue, background, frontal view, side view, before and after picture, like what's going to be better from a plastic surgeon's Instagram page / their second website? Or is it a combination of both of those?
Can I just say one thing? I would love to just say, you have to remember everyone uses the app differently. So I think both are great, because some people are scrolling through the feed and just seeing posts. And so the posts that come up that are static and people really like those, they go to your page and then they're on your feed. But then some people like me, I go to Instagram and I click the Reels tab. I'm not even looking at some of the other stuff when I'm just a consumer. Like if I'm just going to consume content, I'm just going to the Reels tab. So if you never posted Reels, I wouldn't see your stuff, as an example. So like some people really consume stories. Some people really only consume posts. Some people really only consume Reels. So you kind of want to be able to showcase what you're doing on all of them, is kind of what I would keep in mind. But also, I know just from kind of our interaction, Dr. Fuller, with building your website and your brand, just like the amount of perfectionism that you have, I think it's like a trait of plastic surgeons. You guys really probably like that super strict, like before and after image to be able to really see, and you have a trained eye and everyone doesn't have that trained eye. So I think that's important to remember too.
Yeah, I mean, as plastic surgeons in training, we were educated. We had sessions on how to take proper photography, like how to not cheat things, because you can have somebody, for instance, like a lot of aesthetic injectors, they'll do like a chin lift or something, and they'll have the person kind of like pointing down, their chin towards their chest, and then the post picture is like their chin slightly up, and Dan and I will send it back and forth and be like, that's such a bogus shot because it's altering the image. And so we really hone down back on our training, like we want to show the legit result, but at the same time it's know your audience. Like the audience is maybe flicking through the reels and want to catch a tune and want to see something that's more moving. And I think in today's fast-paced world, almost like functional ADD, everybody's just like doing multiple things, that I see a lot of people who only watch my stories, and so I'll post different stuff there, or only see my posts. And so there's people use the apps differently, and I think that was something that was like this aha moment in talking with you guys and developing my media and my website and stuff, as far as just the different modalities that are available.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember that people use it differently, to make sure that you're posting to each area so that you're appealing to every single person that's coming in. I do just have one piece of advice though with Reels. If you're going to make video content, please make it good, because again, if it looks low budget, low quality, it's just not going to do what you think it is. And that doesn't mean you need to hire a videographer. I'm not meaning that by any.
What does it mean? How do we make it good?
Make sure there's good lighting, make sure that it's more fast paced, because I have seen plastic surgeons where it is like the middle of, as Andrea would lovingly call it, the sausage making. And it's not attractive. I don't want to just sit there and see someone sawing into someone's body. Like, I know other people might, but I certainly do not. But if you can give like a fast paced, here's the patient before, maybe a couple little things between, and then the after result, then that's great. But make sure that, your camera's cleaned. I can't tell you how many blurry videos I see, and it drives me bonkers. Wipe your camera before you film, just making sure your camera's clean, making sure it's good lighting, making sure that you're getting better angles. You don't want to film someone like at a weird angle. I see all kinds of things because this is obviously my job, so I pay attention to these things all day long. But those are just things that I notice. Don't take awkward angles of people. Make sure that it just looks clean. Again, it doesn't have to be professionally done, but it can still look clean, because no one wants to come into a clinic that they think is dirty or unorganized.
Yeah, that's what's fascinating about this podcast collab, is because we're looking at the reel completely differently, because we're looking at like the belly button, and we're looking at like this, like how everything's looking, and you guys are looking at the actual making of the content and the media. So that's what really helps us, because now I'm going to look at reels tonight or tomorrow differently. I'm going to be looking at, is there a smudge on their camera or something? But going back to your guys' number one, that thing that we should do, or one of the top things, which is show before and afters, and show really good before and afters. I'm going to, Dan, do you want to talk about some of the gripes plastic surgeons have dealt with, or some of the penalties we've endured with dealing with before and afters on social media, such as Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember when it exactly started, but probably last 6 to 8 months, there's been a huge shift in kind of these community guidelines where, our content, even if it's well edited, blurred, is still being flagged as being inappropriate, sexual in nature, having nudity, and then our profiles go basically in, jail, and you're not exposed to any new people.
And we're not notified of that either.
Yeah, you're not told. You have to dig deep into your settings to find this red flag.
And that's called shadow banning, right? So we're shadow banned. Yeah. Just trying to let our audience understand some of the terminology that we'll be using.
Right. And it's not blatant nudity. It's not sexual. It's like we're trying to show a true, real result. And I've gone as far as drawing on bikinis now, and it's really extreme editing, and it still sometimes gets flagged. And it's really, I think, frustrating in particular because there's a lot of, there's all this AI kind of generated photos. Like, how do you know what's really real? And we're trying to present real results, and it's kind of being put to the very bottom of the bucket. What suggestions, any insights into how you can kind of counteract that besides only showing certain things that, I don't know. It's a thing I'm still struggling with. I was banned for a whole week last week, I think it was.
I would say one of the clients that we do before and afters where it does have nudity in them, one of the things that we do, and I feel like it helps, kind of some of this stuff is a little bit hard to know exactly what to do because they don't just publish the guidelines, but something that we do is we do it in a carousel post where you do multiple images. And so we have a cover photo on the front that says before and after breast lift as an example. And then you have to swipe beyond that picture to then get to the before and after. And so I feel like that from our experience so far has worked. We haven't had any of those photos be flagged or, those accounts haven't been shadow banned or anything of that sort. So that would be one suggestion, is to just kind of make sure that when you're posting it, that you're able to have that cover photo.
Does that get you higher engagement rates if people are actually swiping through? Do you know if that?
Yes. Carousel, the longer someone stays on your post, so just kind of how the algorithm works, the longer someone spends on your content, the more they're going to push it out, because Instagram and every app for that matter, that's social media based, the goal is to keep people on the app as long as possible because that's how they make more money. So anything where people are stopping their scroll, because people see thousands of pieces of content a day, which is kind of sad to admit, to be honest, but they do. And so anytime you're stopping their scroll and getting them to actually engage, they're going to reward you for that because you're making people stay on the app longer. So just kind of talking about the technical terms, why that happens. So it's kind of a double whammy and a positive to have that cover photo because first of all, it helps with, not getting flagged as much, because something that we didn't mention is, yes, there's AI, but sometimes people flag your picture. And let's say that you have a mom on Instagram and her kids are sitting right there, and she scrolls and sees something. I'm not blaming just moms out there, but I'm just saying you never know if she's like, oh, and then flags it, or you just never know what people do. And so by having that cover photo, what's nice is you're warning people hey, breast before and after coming up, so they can choose to swipe as well. And so sometimes that helps just with that too. No one's personally flagging your account either, because if they're swiping, they know what they're swiping for because you're making it obvious.
It's a great point. I'm going to try that.
And for before and afters, is there the same value across different platforms? For someone who is unaware, such as myself, if I just post a before and after on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, the same before and after picture, what does that do to each algorithm briefly? Is there any benefit to just focusing on one versus trying to just spray them across every media platform you can get?
Well, with Facebook, the challenge is that it doesn't present the content the same way that Instagram does, where you have the first one and then you swipe. When you post multiple images on Facebook, it just shows all of them. So sometimes a carousel post doesn't present as nicely on Facebook as it does on Instagram. So you have to keep that in mind. I haven't really noticed or heard of much issue on Facebook as much as on Instagram, because you're not seeing as much random content on Facebook. you're really seeing who you follow on Facebook, where Instagram, like if you're in the discover section, you're like seeing random things, if that makes sense. So you're going to have people who are seeing your stuff on Facebook that intentionally followed you, not random people as much. I mean, of course, like sometimes Facebook will show you stuff, but it's a lot more who you follow, who you're friends with, what groups you're part of, that kind of stuff is what you're seeing when you're scrolling through Facebook, where Instagram, a lot of times it is, you know, kind of random what you're seeing if you're in the discover section, which a lot of people are looking there, explore.
And so how do we get an Instagram post reel to go viral? So Talisa, this one's for you, since you've had some viral posts and Instagrams as an influencer yourself. Like if I just want to make something go viral, like how can I do that?
There's a couple things that help. Obviously, you can't 100% control what goes viral. And what's funny is I've had multiple videos have millions of views personally, and some of them were videos I just kind of half did and took me 30 seconds. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. I'm just going to post this. And all of a sudden it goes hog wild. And I'm like, what on earth? And then other times I'm like, ooh, this is a really good idea. I just have a good feeling about it. But there are things that can help. So I will say you can't completely control when something goes viral, but there are things you can do to help. So first and foremost, finding trending audio and finding early trending audio. So you don't want to find a trending audio, and if it has 200,000 uses, you're competing basically with 200,000 people using the same audio. And at that point, people are tired of it. I know everyone here has been on Instagram and heard this same song 500 times, and you're about ready to throw your phone against the wall because it's so annoying. So you don't want to be one of those people. You want to be able to catch it while it's early. So if you see an audio that you like, at the bottom of your phone, you're going to notice in the bottom left corner, should be a little arrow or like a music note. If there's an arrow, that means that is a current trending audio. So I always do a lot of research. And so I always find ones that have less than 5,000 uses. That's kind of a rule that I personally follow. I never use an audio if it's been used more than 5,000 times, even if it's trending, because you want to catch it while it's early, because Instagram, again, is going to push it out faster with the earlier people that are using it because there's less competition. So hopefully that makes sense. The next step I would say to creating virality is you need people to share whatever you're posting. So a lot of times people think, you know, I'm just going to give this really amazing educational fact about something and it's going to go viral. Well, maybe, because maybe a lot of your peers want to share it with each other or something, but you really got to think what's going to make someone want to share your content, because the more it's shared, the more it's going to be sent out to more people. That's just how the algorithm works. Like Andrew and I talk about this a lot, but sometimes with social media or different aspects of marketing, it's kind of treated like a credit score. There's certain things that go into it and some things are weighed heavily more than others. So for a video, they look at shares and saves. That's what they see first. So that's what they weigh the most heavy. And then it goes to comments and then it goes to likes. So sometimes I might have a video that has a ton of likes, but if people aren't sharing it, I know it's not going to get a lot of views. So you have to just think to yourself, what are things people are going to share and what are things people are going to want to save? And so you need to create content from that lens. This might sound kind of bad. And I'm just going to admit it right here. Sometimes I purposefully do things in my videos that make it not perfect, because even if people are commenting on something, it's gonna boost my engagement. So for instance, this has nothing to do with aesthetics, but I just want to give an example for context. I made a video with my husband that we thought was really funny, and he was reading a book on the couch. And that was like me coming up to him when he was reading a book on the couch. Well, I purposefully put like Hello Moon, like he was like really intently reading Hello Moon, you know, a kid's book, because I knew people were going to comment about it. I knew people were going to be like, is Ben reading Hello Moon? Or like, what's your husband reading? Or, you know, people got the biggest kick out of it because it seemed so out of place. But I did that on purpose because I knew it was going to create good engagement. So there's things that you can do to kind of help boost engagement, whether it's things you do from a comical standpoint where you're trying to get people to start talking about something, or maybe you say something very controversial, like that also can help boost engagement because people want to weigh in on their opinions. So there are things that can help boost the chance of having a viral video, but you can't completely control it.
Yeah, I thought one of your episodes on the Aesthetic Pulse, which I invite all of our listeners to go and listen to and follow and subscribe to, was you talked about if you're going to go viral, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Like you don't want to be known for a viral video that is either not your niche or not something that's like in your best moment. So, if you're being over the top, ridiculous, or controversial, like you don't want to be that plastic surgeon with 20 million views of something that he did that's spurring a lot of red flags, unless that's your jam. So I always like think about, well, like if this goes viral, am I okay with it, sort of thing.
Right.
And I know that I reached out to you a week ago or so because I have a video now, or a reel on Instagram that's got 25 million views, and it's kind of put me into a category that's very odd because I'm getting all of this comments and weird things coming out that normally it's like in my smaller audience is not really there. And so I'm trying to navigate, like, how do I do that? Because I don't want to like be mad at the algorithm for creating this, popular reel, but at the same time, like, I don't want to be promoting what they're saying and doing and stuff. So it's I don't know, it's all just very interesting.
And that's really key. Obviously, you don't want to say something you're not proud of. You don't want to say something just to cause attention because that's your reputation too, if something is going viral. So, if you have a strong opinion on something that maybe a lot of people have different opinions on, that's okay, because you can stand behind that and you can feel proud of that. But I'm glad that you said that, because that's critical. You want to stay authentic to yourself. You never want to do something on purpose just to create virality when you wouldn't feel good about it later on. Or just something that's irrelevant. Like, please, on your plastic surgery page, don't post something funny about your dog, because then if you get a bunch of followers from it, because sometimes people might just see it in their, they're in their reels in the discover section, and they might just immediately follow you because they see a funny dog video. But then when they start seeing your content, they're like, what is this? And then they'll either unfollow or not, almost worse, just not engage with it, even though they're following you. And then that makes your engagement go down, which then means less traction to your page. So making sure that it's always relevant to your Instagram is important too.
Yeah, I think being authentic is something I've always really, strived to, stay true to. A few times over the last few years, I've tried to have, some members help post and whatnot. And every time they would do a post, I'd be like, this just doesn't sound like me, right? It doesn't fit with like the narrative I want to be pushing. And I've just stopped doing that over the last several years. Like, I'm just going to have to manage this myself because it's the only way I feel comfortable doing it. And it's the same thing. Like, I'm not like I don't like to sit on videos and talk to myself or answer questions or do dances. And some people do that and they do it great, but like a lot of times also it's like, seems kind of cringy and forced. So I think everyone kind of has to, do what feels comfortable for them, while staying authentic to themselves.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that a little bit, because I know that there is a thought around like getting on social media and having to, I don't want to be on camera. That's what Talisa and I get from pretty much every client. I hate being on camera. I'm so bad on camera. I don't like it. Or I don't want to be on video. And I think that that's because we paint a picture about what should be on video. But I think for us, some of the clients that have done the best are clients that are, what other people might consider to be boring, where it's like they're just being themselves and they're sharing, their favorite treatments, or sharing a before and after, or telling a story, and they're not being overly animated, or they're not dancing, or there's no music, and they're just, being their normal selves. And people identify with that and really like it and learn to know, like, and trust them through social media. And then that does translate into clients. So just because you have a lot of followers or you have a lot of views doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of clients. And just because, it's not like an exact science of how you're getting rewarded on social media with what comes in. It'd be better to have fewer followers and more clients coming in than to have more followers with less clients coming in, just because you want to have, that amount of followers or likes, So I think there is a way to present video content and pictures even of yourself where you don't have to overthink it. And being able to trust your team to kind of help you film those videos is a great way to do it too. So you are in control of it, but then you have someone else kind of helping you do it.
So speaking to two plastic surgeons, Dan's at Quintessa, a large plastic surgery group for plastic surgeons and a med spa, and then myself, we're doing our own social media. We both want to be authentic, and just to be clear, you're saying that there should be more pictures or videos of us talking, or not just the before and afters. Like there needs to be something for familiarity so that they see our faces, they hear our voices, sort of thing.
Yeah, I would say regularly hiring a professional photographer so you can have at least organic pictures on your feed is pretty critical, I would say, in a very good, well-rounded social media presence, because again, people need to like, know, and trust you before coming in. And that happens through your work, of course, but it also can come just from feeling like they know you. And so I would say it's really important that you're showcasing your face, as much as I know for some people they don't want to, but I would say making someone feel like you're warm before they even meet you helps them be at ease before they ever come in for even a consultation. And people like feeling like they know someone. And I've noticed that so many people think because they follow someone, or maybe there's a big influencer, they're like, oh, I love her. I'm like, well, you've never met her in your whole life. How, but there's that, they're familiar with them. And so you want to kind of create that feeling of they're used to seeing you. So then they're comfortable with being around you. And that is translated in consultations and how people act. It's directly correlated. So I would say making sure you have really good organic pictures is huge. As for video, I wouldn't say you have to talk, because I am going to say this. You should stay authentic to you, but if you, okay, I gotta be careful how I word this, but sometimes people are boring. I'm just gonna say,
cut the show. Cut.
Just pick me off now. No, but people can be very monotone, and it's nothing against anyone. But if you're sitting there like, I would like today to talk about school, how to correct this, no one's gonna be like, wow, I am so hooked. So I wouldn't say you have to necessarily talk to a camera, like know what you're comfortable with and also your personality, because you do want to engage people. But I would say you can be in video without even talking. So you can have B-roll of just having someone in your clinic just take small little video clips of you doing your thing, almost like they're a little fly on the wall and you're not even aware of them, but just them seeing you in action, seeing you with clients and patients and your front desk and, all of your staff. It's important for people to just get a sense of how you interact with people. And you can do that without saying one word on camera. So also know yourself, because if you're doing these long dragged out videos and getting 10 views, there's probably a reason you have 10 views, and maybe don't keep doing that because you want to engage people.
I'm so happy I have thick skin. Thanks, guys. It's really just left in the face here. No. So if Dan's has mentioned that Quintessa is revamping their website, so you're saying that the to-dos would be add some videos, even if it's not talking, just kind of walking around, making things look beautiful. And then, to that, if there's anything else to add for his website, go ahead and let him know. And then also you'd mentioned photography or photo shoots. Like how often should we be getting those or doing those?
Yeah, that was a lot of questions in one.
I'm not trying to be monotone now. I'm trying to be very jovial.
The photo shoots, the quarterly shoots, that's what we suggest. Quarterly shoots, just plan for that once a quarter. It shouldn't cost you. So we kind of briefly touched on this before we hit the record button about how, contractors will see plastic surgery as a money grab and they will overcharge for things just because they think, they can afford it. So I'm just going to up my rate. I would say for us, just a basic standard rate that we normally pay photographers for quarterly shoot across the country. So we have clients in all 4 time zones, in the north, in the south, in big cities, in small areas. We pay them $600 for a quarterly shoot, every photographer. And for that, they turn through about 75 photos. So that is just kind of to give you like a rough estimate of what we get for our contractors, our subcontractors, but the photos are great to use on your website. And then they're also great to use on social media. And then for photos, it doesn't have to be all posed stuff. So the photographer is going to charge based on how much time they're there. Usually that's what they're going to charge for, not number of photos. They're going to charge for amount of hours. And so if the photos they're taking are of your space, they're of an exam room, they're of, you interacting with someone who's pretending to be a patient, and it's not all these posed headshots. Headshots take a lot longer for them to do. So try to create a variety with them. But did you have any questions about that?
Can they do videos too?
You can have them do videos for the website. But if you are going to have videos taken for social media, I wouldn't pay a photographer to do it. Personally.
If you have people, if you have, anyone in your office that is good with an iPhone, you're going to be fine with your regular video content. I do want to kind of back up really quick though. I agree with Andrea. $600 for a quarterly shoot is about what you can expect. Of course, it might vary a little bit, but I would also say there's kind of some outliers. If you're in New York City, forget it. If you're in LA, forget it. Like, it's going to be a lot more than that. But other than those big hitting cities, that's about what you can expect. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because if anyone's in one of those locations, I don't want you to feel like you're just getting completely duped.
Yeah. New York City is a whole nother country in some ways, it feels like, to us when we try to hire some. We've done that 2 times and it is different for sure.
And then another question about marketing and websites and photo shoots, but transitioning a little bit into branding. I found it so interesting when you guys created my logo, and I've just become more curious of logos, and I'm seeing logos change, like we talked about before recording, about how the Disney app has changed its color scheme and its like signature just a little bit, just enough for when I'm trying to watch Bluey with my kids. I'm like, oh, there's a new Disney app. Like, I'm aware of that. And to me, I'm intrigued by what you guys as experts in marketing, branding, website, and all that jazz would recommend to a plastic surgeon as far as, do you change and mix it up to try and gather different audiences to show that you're innovative and transitioning into different phases of your career? Or should you keep it the same Quintessa logo or the SF logo for eternity? Like, where is the value in branding and then changing the brand?
From my perspective, I would say keeping it updated every couple of years, not necessarily doing a full overhaul where you're like redoing the whole entire thing, but there are trends that change. So just like interior design, right? Like, we all are aware of that, or fashion, right? Like, there are things that change, a little bit every year, but after you've gotten 10 years out of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, you're still wearing bell bottoms, like, those are long gone. We're not doing those anymore. So with your logo and colors and just how things are presented, there is a trend about that. And so from my perspective, patients want to go to the most cutting edge place, the most high-end place for these types of procedures. And so that's going to be portrayed in your branding and your website if you're really out of date. And when you're out of date, it's associated with you're out of date on your surgical techniques. Maybe your place is dirty. Maybe everyone's old. And, I don't want to go to someone who's really old. I want to go to someone who's, the most fresh on their training and that kind of. So there's a lot that gets portrayed from branding that is presented on your website and on social media that I think gets forgotten about. So my personal suggestion would be every couple of years to just take a look at it again with someone. And I wouldn't go to someone new every time. I would try to stick with like the same group to kind of keep things all on the same page, because if you have to start over every time, that gets very costly as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like Dan is a Green Bay Packers fan. He's in Wisconsin, and like that's just a household name, and the logo, like nothing's really changed, and it's just iconic. But then, where I'm at in South Bend with Notre Dame, like they have actually changed a lot with like their jerseys and their uniforms. And as much as it's historic and traditional, they're always changing things just a little bit. I think more for marketing, merchandise, like they're trying to just sell things rather than having it be the same thing. And, so I see that while it's still the same traditional and the same, trustworthy entity, it's still important to revamp, if nothing else, just to kind of get a fresh set of eyes and just to show that, hey, we're not just stagnant, we're evolving and changing with the times. And so there's something to be good to be said about that, and maybe something bad to be finally said about the Packers. Who knows?
Oh, no, I think that's really important to remember that, if you're updating your brand, it doesn't mean you're having to do a complete overhaul, because you probably already have some brand recognition, which is very valuable for your current client base, but you can always update and make more fresh and new. But I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, every few years I'm going to have to do like a complete overhaul. No, like that might actually confuse people. And you want to have that brand recognition. So, think of it more as updating every once in a while versus like you don't need to have a complete overhaul all the time.
And then Dan was also asking, the group before we hit record about, his website and Quintessa and just the troubleshooting of SEO, search engine optimization. And if you are making changes, if you are revamping, are you losing some of the value of what Google considers your website to be? And, how does that all work? Because, I know some of the buzzwords, but I don't really know where the value is either with Google Ads, Google rankings, SEO. I'm not sure if you guys can talk about it from an aesthetic standpoint or even like at best a plastic surgery standpoint, but just, where should we be thinking as far as trying to optimize that whole portion of the internet?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I do want to preface it by saying Talisa and I don't own an SEO agency. People do go to college for that. And so it is a very detailed and specified service that people offer. We do partner with an amazing agency for SEO and ads. So I definitely know enough about it to speak to it, but I do want to say we're not, in the trenches with SEO and ads either. But so the concept of SEO is it's your organic ranking on Google or Bing. So and I use the word organic because it's not paid. So when you search for something like breast surgery near me, you're going to pop up on Google and you're going to see sponsored, 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 sponsored. And then below that is going to be the organic search results. So a lot of people like me, as an example, when I search something, I'll scroll beyond the sponsored and I want to see like who's actually ranking at the top. And so that's what SEO is. It's like how to get ranking.
Can I raise my hand?
Yeah.
Is there data on how many people actually scroll past those pay-per-click ads versus just taking one of do they have numbers on that?
I don't know if they necessarily have numbers on how many people are scrolling past it. There still is value in ads because you're still seeing who's paying to do the ad. Whether you're clicking on the ad or not, you're still seeing like, okay, Dr. Fuller is putting money behind, breast surgery near me. And so if I'm searching plastic surgery over and over and I'm still seeing him in ads, it's still a recognition up there. So Google ads, for an optimal Google presence, you're going to want to do both ads and SEO for the important things that you're doing. But that's the concept of SEO, is to raise your ranking on the organic side. So you definitely want to think of SEO as if it is a credit score. So there are a lot of factors that factor into where you rank, and then those factors are all weighted differently. So if you've ever looked at like Credit Karma as an example of all the different things that go into your credit score and what's weighted higher and what's weighted lower, and SEO is very similar. So there are things like load speed. There are things like how recently you've updated your page. There are things like what search terms are in your page that people are searching for to kind of pull it higher. There are a lot of different factors that go into that. People will argue that platforms make a big difference, like what platform that you build your website on makes a difference. And so to answer your question about can your old website be updated without losing everything that you've had before, I would say you definitely have to be careful about not deleting everything because you can really hurt yourself. We actually saw this with a client that came to us, and she's in Texas, and she had a whole bunch of traffic. So we were looking at her Google Analytics dashboard. She had a ton of traffic. And then she had her website redone and it literally tanked to 0. And it had been at pretty much nothing after her website was redone until now. And she's like panicked, like, oh, I knew my business had slowed down and I couldn't figure out why. And so we were looking at the Search Console numbers and trying to figure out like, gosh, what happened in November when she redid her website? And so you definitely don't want to just delete your old website and start over from scratch. Like there's a lot that you want to make sure that who you go to build your website is a reputable place and that they know what they're doing. I will say plastic surgery is a little different than med spas because you guys have a lot more to put on your website. But a gallery page is super important to have on your webpage. And with that one, you can't be shadow banned. It's not the same as Instagram. So you're going to want to make sure you have that gallery page and you're updating it frequently. And I know also before we started, we were kind of joking about how patients are like coming in and saying like, oh my gosh, I totally saw this before and after on your website. And like, it sold me, like, I'm ready. I want to do this. And you know, just how amazing that is and how we kind of forget how important a website is. Cause it's like, we're so familiar with our own websites that we don't always think to put those on there. We think more about social media, but keeping your website updated with your gallery is super, super critical. I would say with a website, just thinking about the user experience is really important as well. So we see a lot of websites where the website is designed around the product name or like the procedure name. And people don't always know what the procedure names are. You know, people don't know what a otoplasty is. A lot of people don't know what that word is. They know that they have ears that they want fixed, but they don't necessarily know the term, right? So like you go to someone's website and it says otoplasty. Well, a patient doesn't know that term, so that's not going to draw them in. So you kind of want to think about the user experience about what are they going to look for. So you could say like ear surgery or something like that, where it's more patient friendly. So just making sure that whoever you partner with to build your website is somebody that's going to be thinking through those things, and then someone who is reputable for the SEO and kind of that back end component, because people can charge a lot of money for a website. And Talisa and I know, we've seen it. There's someone we know who he'll charge $20,000 for a website, and then he told us he sends all of it over to the Philippines, and then he collects like 90% of that and then pays people in the Philippines. And so you want to make sure you're not getting someone like that. You want to make sure you're getting somebody that really cares and knows what they're doing and is really going to commit to giving you the best service for their website for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of it for us is word of mouth, which, you know, how I got to you guys was just referral from someone that I knew and trusted. Because I mean, even today I received probably 3 or 4 emails from marketing firms, from people saying, hey, did you know that your website is crashing, or you're not being, you know, it's slow and you've got poor rankings. And I'm like, they want me to hit the panic button. I'm kind of just seeing myself as like sharks are just circling me every single day. And I'm trying to navigate these treacherous waters, trying to find someone to trust to give me their expertise, their skill, their training that I don't have, to create a good, strong website that's going to show the work that we love to do, that we're passionate about, that's going to create social media and help me be authentic with that. And so that's, you know, part of the reason why Dan and I really wanted you guys on this podcast was just to hear that out loud and just to get some tips and tricks on how we can navigate these rough seas here.
Can I just add one more thing now that you said that? I feel like, as unfortunate as it is to say this, what we found a lot in this industry is there's a lot of times like a physician tax is what a lot of people would refer to it as, which is really disheartening, where they'll overcharge physicians just because they're physicians, and that's really unfair. So I would say, like, trying to be careful if marketing agencies are reaching out to you saying there's something wrong, because everyone wants your business, right? And so just being careful with stuff like that. I think it is nice to have, you know, word of mouth referrals, because then you know you are with someone that's trustworthy. So I would say be cautious of that. If people are just randomly reaching out to you, that's a lot of times a red flag. And so I just want to warn anyone listening, if you're getting those kinds of messaging or there's those kinds of things in your inbox, be a little bit wary, I would say.
Yeah, marketing agencies tend to tear other people's stuff apart too, just to like get the business away from that other group. We see it every day.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I'm considering those spam. I'm not clicking on anything and stuff, but even companies that I've reached out to prior to hiring you guys come back at me, and you know, they're like, you got to change your website, blah blah blah. Like, what about this font? And they start like, trashing it, and I just wrote back like, I actually picked that font. And I think the colors too. And those are my colors. I like them a lot. I like the font. And so it's just kind of like, he did not reply to my reply. So I think that kind of ended that conversation. But yeah, I mean, that's just not a good way to be for plastic surgeons either. Like Dan and I think we talked in another podcast, like our job is not to trash other people's work. That makes us look bad. That is poor, sportsmanship. We need to play well in the sandbox. Everyone can have a complication or a problem. So we really want to focus on the forward thinking and how we can make things better rather than, oh gosh, why did you go to this person or that? And in the same way with plastic surgery, Dan and I are always dealing with people who try to take shortcuts, who try to get lesser with less money, either crossing borders or going someplace and trying to feel like they're getting their easy way to get their body to look like the way it is. So when we approach marketing, our mindsets are, you get what you pay for. We got, the more you pay, the better it's going to be. But we are also, and I'm even more aware because somebody said that they're going to charge $20,000 and then outsource it to the Philippines or something, that you need to be careful because even these high prices come with risks and likely dissatisfaction. We had a podcast about a mother-daughter duo who was charging $6,000 to $10,000 and injecting liquid silicone in people's butts in Texas and California and stuff, and causing all these issues. And that wasn't even cutting corners or doing things cheaply. That's super expensive. And, somebody without any training, any certification in that, and they were arrested in a police sting. It's our Hot Topic podcast that you guys should check out. But that's happening everywhere, that, even with counterfeit Botox. And so the world is crazy. There's lots of, issues going on, but we're just trying to figure out what's what and stay positive and happy and ultimately provide safe patient care. Dan, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I wanted to give one plug to probably the best marketing out there. And we've mentioned it here, word of mouth. I mean, when patients are telling their friends about their great experience, I kind of look at every patient as an influencer ambassador. I want them to have the best experience, best result. So they go out and literally market for me in a sense. So I think those, that's our best return on investment. They're happy and they continue to spread that. And obviously we're always trying to, expand our market reach a little bit, but, that's our goal with every patient that comes in the door. I think.
Yeah. And, a lot of our surgeries are private or personal. And so it's not everyone can, we have some phenomenal results that they are not comfortable being on social media and being on the website. And I totally get that. But they say, hey, I'm going to tell 3 friends, or I'm going to speak about it, but I just don't want my body on there. And that's, better than, pictures and stuff. I'd rather have that word of mouth and just that positive feedback and response, and knowing that that's in the community, providing good insight into, my care, my results.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do want to share just in closing that Talisa and I did put together a guide. So if anyone who's listening is interested in hiring an agency for any of these services that we talked about, we put together an interview guide of questions to make sure you ask and the reasons why we suggest you ask them. So you can find that in the show notes if you're interested in just getting that, just to kind of have some sort of a talking point if you're interested in interviewing agencies or freelancers or anything like that. There's a lot of people out there to help. There's a lot of great people out there to help. And so we did put that PDF together for anyone who needs, any direction or is interested in questions that you could ask during an interview.
That's great. Talisa, any closing comments?
Stay safe out there, guys. No, just kidding. No, I would say, honestly, the biggest advice I would give anyone with their marketing is be authentic to you. Don't pretend to be anyone that you're not, and you're going to attract the right people. That's number one piece of advice I would give.
So this was, even better than expected crossover collab with Smith and Crawford Company, who are marketing, branding, website experts. They've created my website. They created my logo and brand. They are in the aesthetic world, and they are on the Aesthetic Pulse as their own podcast on all the different podcast apps. You can catch them there. They deep dive into what Dan alluded to as cringy TikTok stuff and how to avoid that, into influencers and how that can be important to practices. So very fascinating marketplace that they have. And I'm sure we'll have them back on to talk about other things just as we get more and more confused into the whole social media. And as I work on not being as monotone, apparently. So we will all get better because of this. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to tune in next week and follow and send feedback to all of our Instagram pages, our Spotify on different topics or ways that we can do things better.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Doctors Fuller and Butz are so appreciative of your time and attention. We invite you to subscribe, share, and continue to enjoy our plastic surgery perspective. Feel free to reach out on Instagram at either @SFullerSurgeryMD or @DanielButzMD. That's Butz with a Z for comments, suggestions, and support. Remember, be artsy, stay scientific, and make life fun. We hope you'll join us again on the next episode of Fuller Butz.